Plano Senior High School, Phil Parlin has been coaching for 12 years, but recently he's been given the chance to live one of his life's dreams, to coach his own son. Clayton Parlin is now a senior, and as you'll learn in this week's Family Affair, the Parlin family is enjoying every moment.
Clayton started playing basketball probably around the age of 2. As soon as he walked around, we put a ball in his hand, and he's been in our gym for a long time.
I was probably about 4 or 5 years old. I know I had a ball in my hand probably when I was a little kid, like 2, but I probably didn't start playing until I was about 4 or 5.
Football, we really didn't do football we didn't start till about 4th grade.
My mom was always like a little scared to get me in there, but finally I think I was about 12 when she let me start playing. Usually they're both like year-round sports, so you have to concentrate on one sport at a time usually, so it's hard to balance it out, but I love it. I love both the sports, so I couldn't just pick one.
Well, I think he loves them both equally, and so probably right now it'd be football, and maybe in a couple weeks or 3 or 4 weeks it'll be basketball, so it's hard to say. He loves them both. I know when he was born I couldn't wait and have the opportunity to coach him, and it's been amazing to see how God has ordained it for me to be his head coach when he came up here to Plano Senior High, and it's something that I've looked forward to for such a long time, and that's so exciting. And again, it's definitely the highlight of my career so far. I can give him more one-on-one time when we go home and to go over certain things and maybe that we put on new that we haven't done in the past year. So yeah, that definitely helps him without a doubt.
He's probably extra hard on me, and overall it just makes me a better player, so it's a good thing, I think. It's different than football. You gotta like keep practicing your shot and dribbling, and it's a different, like, basketball shape's different than football shape, so it's hard, but it's something I have to do to stay ready for basketball. So.
Oh, we'd love to have him out here without a doubt, but personally I want to see them have a long run in the playoffs. Hopefully we'll have a chance to get there after the end of this week, and we'll take them. We've got 3 other guys that were coming with him, so we're looking forward to them coming here, but we want them, and I know personally, selfishly as a dad, I want him to have a great experience in the playoffs this year.
We discuss it at home a lot. You know, if we're watching a game, you know, he'll see a play or something and like maybe write it down, try and use it, or, you know, it's not like all the time. We can talk about other stuff, but we talk about it every once in a while.
I told somebody the other day that that's my favorite thing to do, to watch him play football. It's so different when I'm in the stands as a fan as opposed to him being out there on the court when I'm coaching him. So again, I love for Friday nights to come, and I hate for them. I know he's a senior and they're coming to an end soon, hopefully not this week. And again, it's been it's so much fun to watch him play.
And time now for our recruiting update, and we welcome in, as usual, David McNabb, VYPE recruiting expert, author of the weekly McNabb Report. And David, you can identify with the Parlins, not as a coach, but as a sports writer covering your own son. You can only imagine what it'd be like to coach your own son, right?
Yeah, although I'm sure my son wouldn't want me to coach. The one rule is he never wants to hear my voice in the stands for that.
Well, let's talk recruiting here, and let's talk about the dual threat quarterback. You see it in college football. It's very prominent this year with a guy like Cam Newton at Auburn, Taylor Martinez, a running quarterback, a freshman at Nebraska, able to just step on campus and lead that team. The dual threat quarterback is something that college recruiters are really looking for now.
Yeah, one of the favorite things that people like to say is things are cyclical. They run through cycles, and it used to be that Texas created a lot of running quarterbacks with the option offense. Then they went to the spread offense, and that created a bunch of big 6'5" kids who could not play quarterback because they wanted them to run. And now it's going back to a player who can pass the ball, but who is also a running threat, and you're certainly seeing it in the college game. So more and more high school quarterbacks are being recruited as dual threat than have been in the past.
And we've got some specifics to show you. In fact, Jamal Turner from Arlington Sam Houston committed early on to Nebraska, and he's right up there at the tops as far as top of the rushing charts in Class 5A in the area.
And Jamal is a good passer. The thing that he brings, though, he could lead the 5A area in rushing, which a quarterback hasn't done in a long time around here. But he has to be able to throw. The days of the 70s where high school teams just took their best athlete, whether he played defensive back and receiver, put him at quarterback, gave him the ball, ran in sweeps, and did things like that. There's still the quarterback training because quarterback has to play so many formations, read the spread option. So they're learning how to pass, but that ability to run is also getting higher value these days.
All right, so Turner headed to Nebraska, another guy who's right up there as far as running, passing, from Denton Geyers, coming off a couple of deep runs in the Class 4A playoffs. Now they moved up to 5A. A coach's son, J.W. Walsh, who's headed to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and J.W., again, he's a kid who's grown up as a quarterback. That's what he plays. He makes the reads, he can't make the throws, but when it's 3rd and 8 and you go too deep on the patterns, he's fast enough and athletic enough that he can make the run. And he's a kid that you know, pass for 2,000 yards and rush for 1,000 yards is getting to be a real valuable statistic.
And with what Oklahoma State's doing with their offense now, sort of has the Texas Tech flavor to it, it's going to be very interesting to see once he gets to the college level how they use a guy like J.W. Walsh. Let's move on to West Mesquite, and you look at the box scores every week. Trevon Boykin, the quarterback for West Mesquite, who's a TCU commit, and it's incredible the numbers that this kid puts up every week.
And he's a tremendous athlete, and he really is a great example. A year ago, he was the quarterback, and he's been the quarterback, but he was still the running quarterback. He's got real 4.4 kind of speed, but he worked really hard in the spring and during the summer on his passing on 7-on-7. And TCU, I think, told him he could try out at quarterback when he got there, but maybe thought of him as that athlete, DB, receiver type. But he has so much improved his passing that now he'll fit right in. They look for him to compete for Andy Dalton's job next year, and that's where it's an actual dual threat. He's not just a runner, but he can pass as well.
And of course, Andy Dalton runs for a lot of yards, but he doesn't pose the kind of running threat that Boykin would.
Yeah,
in
it
that
won't
TCU
be near
offense.
the same. Yeah.
All right, at South Lake Carroll, there's a young quarterback, a familiar name, especially to you baseball fans out there. You remember a former Ranger pitcher, Ken Hill, who was on that Ranger team in 1996 that won its first ever American League West Division title. Well, he's got a son who's a sophomore at South Lake Carroll. Same name, Kenny Hill.
You know, and Kenny is another good example of this trend. He started showing up in camps the last couple years, and people would go, well, he's a good athlete. He's more of a dual threat. And in the past years, that's been taken as sort of a backhanded compliment, meaning he couldn't be a full-time passer. But now, South Lake Carroll, of course, the cradle of the 4,000-yard passer, has gone with a sophomore. And Kenny throws a lot. He still does that, but he can take off and run. He's athletic enough, and adding that dimension, so he's really a name to watch.
And then you've got a school like Highland Park. Okay, we've talked about individual players who can run it or pass it. Well, Highland Park and Randy Allen, he's got a couple of quarterbacks.
Well, and you've got to give Randy Allen a lot of credit because he's following this trend not with one quarterback, but with two. Of course, he was at the forefront of the all-passing trend with Matthew Stafford and won a state title with that. And Matthew got to where he could run a little bit in the playoffs, but now Highland Park still runs that same spread formation, still takes a lot of reads by the quarterback, but Jake Howarth, who's a defensive back really, sort of does more of the running, but he can pass just well enough to where it's not totally predictable. And then, but Brady Bergen is rolling up the passing stats, so he has that, and then Howarth is in the running stats.
And it's going to be very interesting to see Highland Park as they move on through the Class 4A playoffs. And in fact, all of these guys, and you can be your own scout out there and look for your own dual threat quarterback because you know college recruiters are looking for them. David McNabb, we appreciate you joining us as usual here on VYPE TV. How can you help choose the best high school football player in North Texas? We'll tell you about the Landry Award when VYPE TV continues in 2 minutes. Time now for the Landry Award presented by GMC. You can nominate players by visiting LandryAward.com. Nominations will be accepted through November 18th. In late November, 5 finalists will be selected, and the winner will be announced on Thursday, December 9th. Ceremony to be broadcast live right here on TXA 21. Thanks for joining us this morning. We'll be back next week at 10:30 to bring you the best stories in North Texas sports. The Drumline of Plano East this week.